When it comes to talking about one of the most popular games of all time, it's hard not to at least have the Red Dead Redemption franchise in your top 5 games, but especially Red Dead Redemption 2, by far one of the best open world single player games ever made, not to mention the developer Rockstar Games. When they develop a game, it's something not to be taken lightly. It's a masterpiece all in itself. With its characters, world building, and the overall atmosphere, it makes sense that they'll only develop a game once every 10 plus years. With the beautiful backlog behind Rockstar Games, games like Max Payne and the Grand Theft Auto series, it's insane to even fathom how many Rockstar games they've been produced that are in our top 5. But when it comes to the Red Dead franchise, living the life of a gunslinging cowboy for some reason just clicks with almost any gamer and gamers of all ages. But back on topic, why you clicked on this video, you want to know when we're getting Red Dead Redemption 3. And well, we've got some news today to cover. Hey, what's up guys, Zach here and welcome back to VGL. In today's video, we'll be covering everything we know for the future of the Red Dead franchise, the story details, the possible release date, and the platforms, everything we know about Rockstar's next project. After the long-awaited Grand Theft Auto 6, we know what's next. If you're excited for Red Dead Redemption 3, drop a like on the video, subscribe with your notifications turned on. Now let's break down everything we know about the long-rumored Red Dead Redemption 3. Now first, before we talk about what to expect for RDR 3, I think it'd be nice to talk about where the previous games left off. And sadly, no, I won't be breaking down the original classic game, Red Dead Revolver, although it does follow a very similar story to its predecessors, especially when it comes to the main theme. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 was first released in 2018, and it is the prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1. This game is set primarily in 1899 as the Wild West is giving way to modernization, and the government is cracking down on all the outlaws. You'll be playing as Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2, a member of the Vanderlyn Gang, a notorious group of outlaws led by Dutch Vanderlyn. The game starts after the failed ferry robbery in Blackwater, with the gang on the run as they attempt to stay ahead of the law and the rival gangs. They'll hope for one last big score that will allow them to retire from their lives of crime. Throughout the game, Arthur must grapple with his loyalty to the gang, especially when it comes to Dutch being more paranoid and unhinged. And as the tensions rise in the gang, Arthur forms a stronger relationship with some of the other members, especially John Marston, the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 1, Sadie Adler, and many others. The gang then moves from place to place, constantly evading lawmen and rival gangs. Arthur begins questioning Dutch's leadership as their plans consistently fail and people are killed. During a mission, Arthur then contracts tuberculosis, which causes him to reflect on his life and choices he's made. His illness symbolizes the moral decay, but also leads him to try to find some redemption. There's also infighting between these gang members, with Micah Bell manipulating Dutch and sowing discord, and John Marston seems to fall in the middle of that. Arthur then eventually sides with John Marston, helping him escape from the gang's influence, knowing that the gang is doomed. In the game's conclusion, Arthur either dies heroically trying to protect John, or succumbs to his illness, depending on the player's choices in Arthur's honor. Either way, the gang falls apart, and John Marston leaves with his family, in which then we would get to the sequel, Red Dead Redemption 1. Set in 1911, a decade after the events of Red Dead Redemption 2, during the last days of the Wild West era. So you'll play as John Marston, a former member of the Vanderlyn Gang. John has settled down with his wife Abigail and his son Jack, but the government, in the form of federal agents, including Edgar Ross and Agent Fordham, they forcibly recruit him to hunt down and bring justice to his former gang members in exchange for his family's freedom. So John's mission is to track down the 3 key members of the old gang: Bill Williamson, one of John's old partners who now controls the gang; Javier Escuela, a former gang member who has fled to Mexico; and Dutch Vanderlyn, the former leader of the gang, now leading a group of Native American resistance fighters. So some key takeaways of the first game: John will travel across the American frontier in Mexico in pursuit of his former comrades. Along the way, he encounters various characters and forced to deal with many difficult choices. After a series of bloody confrontations, John eventually kills Bill Williamson and Javier Escuela, and in the final act, John tracks down Dutch, who's become more delusioned and erratic. And after this confrontation, Dutch takes his own life, recognizing the end of the outlaw era. And once John's mission is complete, he returns to his family, believing he can now live in peace. However, the government betrays him. A large group of soldiers led by Edgar Ross attacks John's ranch, and in the tragic finale, John sacrifices himself to allow his wife and son to escape, dying in a hail of bullets. The game then ends with John's son Jack Marston as an adult in 1914. Jack tracks down and kills Edgar Ross, avenging his father's death, but symbolizing the cycle of violence that will forever continue. And now to quickly just cover the major themes in both games. Overall, both Arthur and John struggle with their past as outlaws, and seek redemption for their crimes. Arthur, more introspective due to his illness, comes to regret his life of violence and tries to make amends, particularly by helping John. John in the first game wants to leave his past behind, but is forced to confront it again. Both games explore the fading frontier as modernization, government control, and industrialization replace the lawless freedom of the Old West. Dutch's vision of freedom is shown increasingly out of touch in the new changing world. The loyalty to the Vanderlyn gang plays a significant role in both stories. Arthur struggles staying loyal to Dutch even as their gang falls apart, while John, having escaped the gang's influence, is dragged back into the violence because of his past. The stories of both Arthur and John are ultimately tragic. Arthur dies trying to help others escape the outlaw life, and John dies trying to protect his family from his past. Despite their efforts, the violent world they've lived in continues to shape their fates and the future of their children. What an amazing story both these games have told. It's honestly insane to think that Rockstar has to follow these games up. But now to talk the story of Red Dead Redemption 3. Currently, when talking about what RDR3 story may be about, I really think multiple storylines is where I most likely lean towards. But to break it down, I really think only a couple could actually come to life. So starting off, Red Dead Redemption 3 could continue Jack Marston's story. While some argue that Red Dead Redemption 3 shouldn't push into the later 20th century, a sequel set chronologically after RDR2 isn't out of the question. A natural choice for the protagonist could be Jack Marston, which, if you didn't know, is the son of John Marston and is briefly playable at the end of the first game. The shifting landscape of the more modern world would require adjustments in both themes and gameplay, especially with the evolution of firearms, but the core themes, especially redemption, could still flourish. At the end of Red Dead Redemption, Jack avenges his father by killing Edgar Ross. That in turn continues the cycle of violence John had hoped to save him from, but framing RDR3's as Jack's journey towards redemption fits well with the series and the overarching theme. The game could explore whether Jack descends further into the life of crime or finds a way out. This could quite be one that truly comes to life. Another storyline that I've seen people talk about recently is Red Dead Redemption 3 story could also follow Dutch. In Red Dead Redemption, Dutch Vanderlyn serves as the antagonist, but in the prequel RDR2, he plays a much more complex role as an ally. A popular theory suggests that Dutch himself could be the main protagonist of RDR3, with the story focusing on his life before the Blackwater ferry heist, with the broad strokes of Dutch's backstory could be filled in such a way of his founding of the Vanderlyn gang. There's plenty of room to explore the deeper details, twists, the character development, and the new plot lines. In the last direction that I think the story of RDR3 could follow is Mac Chandler. RDR3 could also focus on the Chandler brothers in the prequel style story. By the time that RDR2 takes place, Mac Chandler is already dead, while his life and death were counted only through the vague, conflicting stories. Different characters, including Arthur Morgan, Uncle, and the Pinkerton agent Milton, offer varying perspectives of Mac's fate. Now, Milton version is particularly interesting as his character is far from trustworthy. In such a story, Mac and his brother Davey could potentially share the main point to follow for the story of RDR3. But honestly, I really don't think anyone knows as of yet truly what direction RDR3 would follow. But if any of these storylines end up being the one, we are in for a wild, wild ride. And now to touch on some more recent news that RDR3 could already be in development and released very soon. I know, it's crazy to think that we haven't even gotten GTA 6 yet, but you have to think this is Rockstar Games. So basically, a very renowned leaker known as My Time to Shine Hello, a user known for sharing supposed insider information when it comes to gaming or pop culture. They posted on Twitter recently that Red Dead Redemption 3 is in development, and also stated that this source has proven reliable in the past and confirms that the game does exist. This could mean a lot of different things. With GTA 6 still a year from its release, RDR3 is likely still in the very, very early stages, if it's being developed at all at this point. There might be a rough story outline, some concept art, and a few ideas for gameplay mechanics, but it's probably far from being a playable state. Like I said, years and years out, like at least 5 years from the release of GTA 6. So when it comes to the release date for RDR3, you know it's got to be sometime after the release of GTA 6. And even now there's talks about GTA 6 being delayed, so who really knows. But if Red Dead Redemption 3 follows a similar 8-year development cycle, the earliest we might see it is 2026. However, with the current console generation nearing its later stages, 2026 would be an awkward time to release RDR3. And let's be real, Rockstar Games would not release RDR3 this close to GTA 6. But whether Rockstar would prefer to wait for the next generation of consoles is hard saying. The next Red Dead game is likely a long way off, and considering the success of the previous installments, it's almost certainly being discussed. However, very little concrete information is available. With such a rich franchise history and the developer known for taking its time, we can make some educated guesses, but until RDR3 is officially announced from Rockstar or Take-Two Interactive themselves, this is all the news I have for you. That's gonna wrap it up with today's video. Let me know in the comment section what you think the next game will be about. Would you like to see some of these storylines that I've talked about previously finally come true? And also, when do you think we're gonna get RDR3? I hope you enjoyed today's video. This has been Zach with VGL, and I will catch you guys in the next video.